stitching warmth for the parade, Thanksgiving in New York City, a sleep story with the Kawaii Crochet Club settling in. Hello, dear listener. Thank you for being here tonight. Before we begin our gentle story together, let's take a moment to help you settle in. There's no rush at all. Everything you need to do today has been done. This time is just for you, for rest, for peace. If you'd like, you can adjust your pillow now, finding that perfect spot where your head rests just right. Maybe pull your blanket a little higher, feeling its soft weight settle over you. Notice how it feels, warm, safe, covering you gently. Take a slow breath in and let it go. You don't need to do anything special with your breathing. Just let it be natural, easy, like waves on a calm shore. In and out, soft and steady. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. You might not have even noticed they were tense. That's okay. Let them soften now. Let them be heavy. Your jaw can relax too. Let your teeth part slightly. Let your tongue rest gently in your mouth. Everything can be soft. As we move into our story, you don't need to follow every word. If your mind wanders, that's perfectly fine. If you drift away and come back, that's wonderful. There's no wrong way to listen. The story will be here, gentle and slow, like a quiet stream flowing beside you. Tonight, we're going to visit some dear friends. They're small and soft, made entirely of yarn, and they live in a cozy corner of New York City. Their days are peaceful, their movements are slow, and everything they do is calm and kind. You're safe here. You're comfortable. You're exactly where you need to be. Let's begin. Chapter 1. A Gentle Request. It was a peaceful Tuesday morning in the small, sunlit space where the Kawaii Crochet Club always gathered. The room was tucked away on a quiet street in New York City, up 3 flights of soft carpeted stairs, behind a pale blue door with a tiny brass knocker shaped like a button. Inside, everything was warm and gentle. Peach the bunny sat in her favorite armchair by the window. She was light pink, soft as a cloud, with long crocheted ears that folded gently over her shoulders. On her head, she wore her treasured teal beret, and pinned to it was a small woven peach, her special touch. The morning light came through the window in soft golden beams, and Peach was quietly working on a new scarf, her small yarn paws moving slowly, peacefully, one stitch after another. Loop, pull through, loop again. The rhythm was soothing. Beside her, on a low cushioned ottoman, sat Biscuit the Bear. He was honey golden, round and warm, with a sweet face and gentle black eyes stitched carefully into his yarn face. Around his neck, he wore his red and white checkered scarf, the one he never took off because it made him feel cozy. Biscuit was crocheting too, working on a small tea cozy shaped like a little house. He hummed very softly to himself, not really a tune, just a warm, comfortable sound. Across the room, near a bookshelf filled with yarn in every color imaginable, Mittens the cat sat cross-legged on a knitted rug. Mittens was orange, bright and soft, with careful stitches forming stripes down his arms and legs. He always wore a cream-colored knit collar, and hanging from it was a tiny silver bell that made the gentlest tinkling sound whenever he moved. Right now, he was reading a book about stitch patterns, turning the pages slowly, thoughtfully, his tail curled around him like a cozy scarf. And near the door, Sunny the duck was stretching, preparing for the day. Sunny was the brightest yellow, cheerful, and light, with a small crocheted bill and webbed feet. On her head, she wore a pink and white polka dot bow that bounced just slightly when she moved. She was doing gentle stretches, reaching up high, bending to touch her toes, rolling her shoulders. Everything about Sunny was soft and warm, even her energy. The room smelled like chamomile tea and wool. A small kettle sat on a hot plate in the corner, steaming gently. The walls were lined with baskets of yarn, blush pink, sky blue, buttercream yellow, forest green, lavender, cream. Every ball of yarn was soft and inviting. This was their space, their cozy, gentle, quiet space. Then, very softly, there came a knock at the door. It wasn't a loud knock. It was gentle. 3 light taps, polite and patient. Sunny looked up. "Oh, someone's here," she said quietly, and she padded over to the door, her small webbed feet making no sound at all on the wooden floor. She opened the door slowly. Standing in the hallway was a visitor. He was a small crocheted monkey, cinnamon brown with a sweet face and kind eyes. He wore a little conductor's cap, navy blue with a shiny black brim, and in his paws he held a small clipboard. His movements were slow and careful. "Hello," he said softly. "My name is Luis. I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all," Sunny said warmly, stepping aside. "Please, come in." Luis stepped into the room, and immediately his shoulders seemed to relax. He looked around at the baskets of yarn, the soft light, the peaceful faces of the crochet club. He smiled. "This is such a lovely space," he said quietly. "Thank you," said Peach from her chair, setting down her crochet hook. "Would you like some tea?" "That would be wonderful," Louise said. Biscuit stood up slowly, his red and white scarf swaying gently, and poured a cup of chamomile tea from the kettle. He brought it over to Louise in a small ceramic cup with a handle shaped like a leaf. Louise took it carefully, holding it in both paws, letting the warmth seep into his yarn fingers. "Please, sit," said Mittens, gesturing to a cushion near the bookshelf. His silver bell chimed softly. Louise sat down, crossing his legs, cradling his tea. He took a slow sip and sighed, a peaceful, grateful sigh. "I came here today," Louise began gently, "because I wanted to ask for your help. But please, if it's too much or if the timing isn't right, I completely understand." The friends listened quietly. There was no hurry. Luis continued, his voice calm and even. "I'm the conductor of a marching band. We're all crocheted animals, just like you. There's a trumpet player who's a little lamb, a drummer who's a raccoon, flute players who are bluebirds, and many others. We're going to be marching in the Thanksgiving Day parade this Thursday." Sunny's eyes brightened. "The big parade? That's wonderful." Louise smiled softly. "It is wonderful. We're very honored. But—" He paused, looking down at his tea. "The weather forecast says it might be quite cold that morning. And we're made of yarn, you know. The cold wind can be, well, it can be uncomfortable for us." He looked up at them, his kind eyes gentle. "I was wondering if perhaps you might be able to help us crochet some warm accessories, ear warmers, mittens, scarves, maybe some soft wraps, just to help keep us cozy during the parade. We want to play our best, and it's hard to do that when you're shivering. The room was quiet for a moment, but it was a warm, thoughtful quiet. Peach set down her scarf and folded her paws in her lap. "Of course we'll help," she said softly. "That sounds like a lovely project." Biscuit nodded, his scarf shifting gently. "We'd be honored." Mittens closed his book carefully, marking his place with a small ribbon. "How many band members are there?" he asked thoughtfully. Luis consulted his clipboard. 16, he said. 16 musicians. Some are small, like the mice who play piccolos. Some are a bit larger, like the otter who plays the tuba. Everyone's a little different. 16, Peach repeated softly. "That's quite a few accessories to make." "I know," Luis said apologetically, "and I understand if it's too much. I only thought I'd ask because I heard you were the most skilled, kindest crocheters in the city." Sunny smiled. "We'll do it," she said warmly. "We just need to gather some yarn first." Luis's face brightened. "Really? You'd do that for us?" "Of course," said Mittens, his bell chiming softly as he stood. "It's almost Thanksgiving. It's a time for helping, for warmth, for kindness." Luis finished his tea slowly, savoring the last sip. Then he stood, setting the cup down gently on a small table. "Thank you," he said, his voice full of gratitude. "Truly, thank you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper. "Here," he said, handing it to Peach. "This is a list of the band members and their sizes, just so you know what you're working with. No rush at all. Whatever you can make will be wonderful." Peach took the list carefully, unfolding it and glancing over the names. Lila the lamb, trumpet, small Rocco the raccoon, drums, medium Pippa and Pearl, the bluebirds, flutes, Tiny, and so on down the list. 16 names, 16 small, gentle musicians. Luis tipped his conductor's cap. "I'll leave you to your morning," he said softly. "Thank you again, from all of us." And with that, he left, closing the door behind him with the gentlest click. The four friends sat quietly for a moment, looking at each other. Then Peach smiled. "Well," she said softly, "I suppose we have a little adventure ahead of us." "A yarn adventure," said Sunny, her pink and white bow bouncing slightly. Biscuit picked up his tea cozy and set it aside. "We'll need quite a bit of yarn," he said thoughtfully. "Different colors, different weights." Mittens nodded, his bell chiming. "We should visit the city," he said. "There are some lovely yarn shops we haven't been to in a while." And so, without any hurry, without any stress, the Kawaii Crochet Club began to plan their gentle journey through New York City. They would gather yarn. They would visit peaceful places. They would take their time. And when they were ready, they would crochet the warmest, softest accessories the marching band had ever seen. But first, they would rest a little longer. Peach picked up her scarf again. Loop, pull through, loop again. Biscuit poured himself another cup of tea. Mittens returned to his book. Sunny continued her stretches, slow and easy. The morning light grew warmer, softer, filling the room with a golden glow. Everything was peaceful. Everything was calm. Chapter 2. Packing for a Yarn Adventure. The next morning, Wednesday, arrived quietly. The city outside was still waking up, The streets were soft with early light, the kind of light that makes everything look a little bit gentler, a little bit slower. The sounds of the city were muffled, distant, like a lullaby heard from another room. Inside the Crochet Club's space, the four friends were preparing for their day. Peach stood by the door, carefully folding a soft lavender shawl and placing it into her tote bag. The bag was made of sturdy canvas, cream-colored, with two handles that she could loop over her shoulder. On the side, someone had embroidered a small peach in pink thread, a gift from Biscuit on her birthday. She moved slowly, thoughtfully, making sure she had everything she might need. A small notebook with a pen attached, her favorite crochet hook, size G, smooth and wooden, a little coin purse with some bills and change, a packet of tissues, a small tin of mints. She checked the list Louise had given them, reading the names one more time. 16 band members. She folded the list carefully and tucked it into the front pocket of her bag. "Are you bringing your beret?" Sunny asked from across the room. Peach touched the top of her head, where her teal beret sat perfectly, the little woven peach pin catching the light. "Oh, I'm already wearing it," she said with a soft laugh. Sunny giggled, adjusting her own pink and white polka dot bow. She was packing her own bag, a small backpack, bright yellow, with a rainbow zipper. Into it, she placed a water bottle, a granola bar, and a tiny sketchbook she liked to doodle in. Biscuit was in the corner, wrapping his red and white checkered scarf around his neck one more time, making sure it was snug and cozy. He packed a slightly larger bag, a brown messenger bag with a buckle, and inside he placed a Tupperware container just in case they found any treats. A folded map of New York City, even though they knew the city well. A small thermos of hot chocolate, his own crochet hook, size H, aluminum and smooth, and a small bag of honey candies, which he loved to share. He moved carefully, checking each item, making sure everything was in its place. There was no rush. They had all day. Mittens was by the bookshelf, selecting a book to bring along, something light, something he could read on the subway or in a park if they needed a rest. He chose a small paperback about the history of knitting. He slipped it into his canvas tote, along with his own crochet hook, size F, his favorite, a pack of crackers, and his little coin purse with the embroidered cat face on it. He adjusted, his cream-colored collar making sure the silver bell was sitting just right. It chimed softly as he moved, a gentle, comforting sound. "I think we're ready," Mittens said quietly, looking around at his friends. "Almost," said Peach. She walked over to the window and looked out at the city. The sky was soft and pale, with just a hint of pink on the horizon. It was going to be a beautiful day. Cool, but not too cold. Perfect for walking. "Should we make a list of yarn shops to visit?" Sunny asked, pulling out her sketchbook and a pencil. "Good idea," said Biscuit, settling down on the cushioned ottoman. The others gathered around him, and together they began to think. "There's Woolly and Warm on the Upper West Side," Mittens said. "They have beautiful wool blends." Sunny wrote it down carefully. "Woolly and Warm." "And the Yarn Garden in Greenwich Village," Peach added. "They always have the softest cotton." "The Yarn Garden." "Stitch and Skein near Union Square," said Biscuit. "They have great sales, and the owner is so kind." "Stitch and Skein." "And maybe we could stop by the big craft store near Times Square," Sunny suggested. just to see if they have anything special. Craft store, Times Square. They looked at the list, nodding softly. That's a good start, said Mittens. We can always visit more if we need to. Peach stood up slowly, smoothing down her shawl. And we'll take our time, she said gently. There's no rush. We have all day today, and we can crochet tonight and tomorrow if we need to. Should we stop for tea somewhere? Biscuit asked, hopefully. He loved afternoon tea. Peach smiled. Of course. We can stop at the plaza if you'd like. That's always peaceful. Biscuit's face brightened. I'd love that. And ice skating, Sunny said, a little bounce in her voice. Can we go ice skating at Rockefeller Center? Just for a little while? That sounds lovely, said Peach. And maybe pizza? Biscuit added, his eyes twinkling. We could visit Difara, Mittens chuckled softly, his bell chiming. And Katz's Deli, he said. I've been wanting a pastrami sandwich. They all smiled at each other. It sounds like we have a wonderful day ahead of us, Peach said warmly. One by one, they picked up their bags, slinging them gently over their shoulders. They moved toward the door, checking one last time that they had everything. Keys, bags, lists, crochet hooks, everything. Peach opened the door, and the four friends stepped out into the hallway. The building was quiet. The carpet beneath their feet was soft, muffling their steps. They walked down the 3 flights of stairs slowly, one step at a time, their paws and feet making gentle pattering sounds. At the bottom, they reached the pale blue door that led out to the street. Peach pushed it open, and a cool breeze greeted them, fresh and clean. The city stretched out before them, tall buildings, quiet streets, the distant hum of life waking up. They stepped outside together. The sidewalk was smooth and cool beneath their feet. The air smelled like autumn, crisp leaves, distant coffee, the faint sweetness of a bakery somewhere nearby. They began to walk, slow steps, easy steps, side by side. Peach adjusted her beret. Biscuit pulled his scarf a little tighter. Mittens's bell chimed softly with each step. Sunny hummed a quiet tune, barely louder than a breath. They walked down the street, past small shops with colorful awnings, past trees with golden leaves, past benches where people sat with their morning coffee. Everything was calm. Everything was gentle. They turned a corner, heading toward the subway station. The entrance was just ahead, marked by a green lamppost and a set of stairs leading down. They descended the stairs together, one step at a time, their bags swaying gently at their sides. At the bottom, the subway station was quiet. It was still early enough that the morning rush hadn't begun. A few other crocheted animals stood on the platform, waiting, peacefully. A small hedgehog reading a newspaper, a rabbit in a business suit, a pair of mice holding paws. The friends stood together near the edge of the platform, not too close, just close enough to see the tunnel. They waited. The air was cool and still. Then in the distance, they heard it, the soft rumble of a train approaching. The sound grew louder, but not harsh, gentle, rhythmic. The train appeared, its lights glowing warmly in the tunnel. It slowed, 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 until it came to a soft stop in front of them. The doors opened with a quiet hiss. They stepped inside. The subway car was nearly empty. Just a few passengers, all sitting quietly, looking out the windows or reading books. The friends found a row of seats near the middle and sat down together. Peach by the window, Sunny beside her, then Biscuit, then Mittens on the end. The doors closed. The train began to move, slow and steady, rocking gently from side to side. Peach looked out the window, watching the tunnel, walls slide by in a blur of gray and shadow. The rhythm of the train was soothing. Click, clack, click, clack, click, clack. Biscuit leaned his head back against the seat, closing his eyes for just a moment. His red and white scarf rose and fell with his breathing. Mittens pulled out his book and opened it to the marked page, reading quietly, his silver bell resting against his collar. Sunny pulled out her sketchbook and began to doodle. A little flower, a swirl, a star. They rode in comfortable silence. The train swayed. The lights flickered softly. The world outside the windows blurred and shifted. They passed station after station, each one a brief stop, a pause, a breath. Finally, the train slowed once more. "This is us," Mittens said softly, closing his book. They stood up together, gathering their bags. The train came to a gentle stop. The doors opened. They stepped out onto the platform, into a station filled with soft light and the quiet murmur of the city above. They climbed the stairs, one step at a time, and emerged into the morning. The Upper West Side. The first yarn shop was just around the corner. Their gentle adventure had begun. Chapter 3. Yarn Hunting Through the City. The first shop they visited was called Woolly and Warm. It was tucked between a small cafe and a bookstore. Its window display filled with baskets of yarn in every color imaginable. The sign above the door was painted in soft script, cream letters on a sage green background. A little bell hung above the door, not loud, just a gentle chime to announce visitors. Peach pushed the door open slowly, and the bell rang out, a sweet, clear note. Inside, the shop was warm and cozy. The walls were lined with cubbies, each one filled with skeins of yarn organized by color. Reds and oranges in one section, blues and greens in another, purples and pinks, yellows and creams. The air smelled like wool and lavender. A small sachet hung near the register, filling the space with its soft scent. Behind the counter stood the shopkeeper, a kind-faced crocheted sheep with fluffy white yarn and gentle brown eyes. She wore a lavender cardigan and a pair of wire-rimmed glasses. "Good morning," she said warmly. "Welcome to Woolly and Warm." "Good morning," Peach replied softly, stepping inside. The others followed, their bags swaying gently. "We're looking for yarn," Sunny said, her pink and white bow bouncing slightly. "For a special project," the sheep smiled. "Well, you've come to the right place. Take your time. Look around. Let me know if you need any help." The friends spread out slowly, each drawn to different sections of the shop. Peach moved toward the section with soft, luxurious wools. She ran her paw over a skein of merino, cloud soft, pale blue, like a winter sky. She picked it up, feeling its weight, testing its texture between her fingers. Perfect for a scarf. She placed it gently in her basket, a small wicker basket the shopkeeper had offered at the door. Biscuit was drawn to the warm tones. He found a beautiful burnt orange, thick and cozy, perfect for mittens, and a deep red, rich as cranberries, and a golden yellow, like his own honey-colored fur. He added them to his basket one by one, handling each skein with care. Mittens stood before the neutrals, creams and tans and soft grays. He liked how calming they were, how they didn't demand attention, but simply existed, quiet and lovely. He chose a skein of oatmeal-colored wool, sturdy and warm, and a soft gray, like a rainy morning. He placed them carefully in his basket, his silver bell chiming softly. Sunny, always drawn to brightness, found herself in the section of cheerful colors. A sunny yellow that matched her own feathers, a bright pink, playful and warm, a soft teal, like Peach's beret. She gathered them carefully, already imagining the ear warmers they could make, colorful, joyful, perfect for a parade. They moved through the shop slowly, thoughtfully, meeting back at the counter after some time. The sheep shopkeeper looked at their baskets and smiled. "Looks like you found some lovely choices," she said. "We did," Peach said warmly. "Thank you." The sheep began to ring up their yarn, moving slowly, folding each skein carefully into paper bags. The register made a soft chiming sound with each item. "Are you making something special?" the sheep asked kindly. "We're making warm accessories for a marching band," Biscuit explained, his scarf shifting gently as he spoke. "They're playing in the Thanksgiving parade." The sheep's eyes brightened. "Oh, how wonderful! They'll be so grateful for the warmth." She finished bagging their yarn and handed the bags over gently. "Good luck with your project," she said. "And happy Thanksgiving." "Happy Thanksgiving," the friends replied in unison. They stepped back out onto the street, their bags a little heavier now, filled with soft, colorful yarn. The morning had grown a bit brighter. The sun was higher in the sky, and the air was, still cool, but gentle. They walked down the sidewalk together, in no particular hurry, enjoying the rhythm of their steps. Click, 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 the sound of their feet on the pavement. They passed a park where a few crocheted animals were walking their small, yarn-made dogs. A little squirrel sat on a bench, knitting quietly. Everything was peaceful. "Where to next?" Sunny asked, adjusting her backpack. Mittens consulted the list. "The yarn garden in Greenwich Village." They made their way to the subway once more, descending the stairs, waiting on the platform, boarding the next train. The same gentle rhythm, the same soothing sway. Click-clack, click-clack, click-clack. They rode in silence, watching the world blur past the windows. The train was a little more crowded now, but still quiet. Everyone moved gently, respectfully, in their own little bubbles of calm. When they arrived at the Greenwich Village station, they climbed the stairs and emerged into a neighborhood filled with tree-lined streets and charming old buildings. The yarn garden was just a few blocks away, down a quiet street with cobblestones and flower boxes in the windows. The shop was smaller than the first, tucked into the ground floor of a brownstone. The window display featured a small crocheted garden, flowers made of yarn, a tiny picket fence, a little watering can. Inside, the shop smelled like cotton and fresh herbs. The owner, a crocheted turtle with kind eyes and a patchwork shell, greeted them from behind a small wooden counter. "Welcome, welcome," he said in a slow, gentle voice. "Come in, take your time." This shop specialized in plant-based fibers, cotton, linen, bamboo. The yarn was lighter, airier, but still soft and beautiful. Peach found a beautiful cotton blend in a soft rose color. Biscuit chose a sturdy linen in olive green. Mittens picked a bamboo yarn in pale lavender. Sunny found a cotton in buttercream yellow. They gathered their skeins slowly, feeling the textures, imagining the accessories they would create. At the counter, the turtle wrapped each skein in tissue paper, moving with the slow, deliberate care of someone who had all the time in the world. "Are you working on something special?" he asked. Mittens nodded, his bell chiming. "We're making warm things for a marching band, for the parade." The turtle smiled. "That's very kind of you. The musicians will appreciate it." They thanked him and left, stepping back out into the quiet street. 2 shops down, 2 more to go. They walked on, bags growing heavier, but it felt good. A satisfying weight, the weight of purpose and care. The afternoon was beginning to settle in. The light was softer now, golden and warm. "Should we stop for tea?" Biscuit asked hopefully. Peach smiled. "Yes," she said. "Let's go to the plaza." And so they made their way uptown, taking their time, enjoying the city, feeling the gentle pulse of the day around them. Everything was calm, everything was soft, everything was exactly as it should be. Chapter 4. Afternoon tea at the plaza. The Plaza Hotel stood tall and elegant on the corner of Fifth Avenue and Central Park South, its grand facade glowing softly in the afternoon light. The friends approached it slowly, taking in the sight of the beautiful building with its ornate details and revolving doors. Peach sighed contentedly. "I've always loved this place," she said softly, adjusting her teal beret. They stepped through the revolving door, one by one, and entered the lobby. It was breathtaking. High ceilings, crystal chandeliers, marble floors that gleamed softly under the warm light. Everything was elegant but not overwhelming. It felt like stepping into a gentle dream. A crocheted rabbit in a neat suit stood near the entrance. "Good afternoon," he said with a kind smile. "Are you here for tea?" "Yes, please," said Peach. "Right this way." He led them through the lobby, down a quiet hallway, and into the tea room. It was smaller than Peach had imagined, but that made it even more special. Intimate, cozy. The walls were pale cream. The tables were set with white linens and delicate china, and soft piano music played somewhere in the background, barely louder than a whisper. There were only a few other guests, a pair of crocheted mice sharing a pot of Earl Grey, a small hedgehog reading a book at a corner table. Everyone spoke in hushed tones, as if they didn't want to disturb the peacefulness of the room. The friends were led to a table by the window where they could see the edge of Central Park, trees with golden leaves, pathways where people strolled slowly. They sat down, each pulling out their chair gently. The chairs were cushioned and soft. Peach set her tote bag down beside her. Biscuit unwrapped his scarf just slightly, letting it drape loosely around his neck. Mittens adjusted his collar, his silver bell chiming softly. Sunny placed her backpack carefully on the floor. A waiter appeared, a kind-faced crocheted deer with small antlers and a crisp white apron. He set down a menu in the center of the table, along with a small vase holding a single white rose. "Good afternoon," he said gently. "Welcome to the plaza. May I start you with some tea?" "Yes, please," said Peach, glancing at the menu. "What do you recommend?" "The chamomile is lovely," the deer said, "very calming. We also have a beautiful lavender blend and a classic English breakfast, if you prefer something a bit stronger." "Chamomile for me," Peach said softly. "Lavender, please," said Sunny. "English breakfast," said Mittens. "And chamomile for me as well," said Biscuit. The deer nodded, writing it down in a small notebook. "Wonderful. And would you like a selection of pastries? We have scones, finger sandwiches, petit fours." Yes, please, Biscuit said, his eyes brightening. A little bit of everything. The deer smiled. Of course, I'll be right back. He left, moving slowly and gracefully between the tables. The friends sat in comfortable silence for a moment, taking in the room. The piano music continued, a soft melody, something classical, something that felt like a lullaby. Outside the window, a crocheted family walked past, pushing a small stroller. A jogger went by in the other direction, moving at a gentle pace. The city was there, just beyond the glass, but it felt distant, muted. After a few minutes, the waiter returned with a tiered tray, 3 levels of delicate treats. On the bottom, small finger sandwiches, cucumber and cream cheese, smoked salmon, egg salad. On the middle tier, warm scones with little pots of jam and clotted cream. On the top tier, an assortment of tiny pastries, lemon tarts, chocolate eclairs, berry macarons. He set the tray down gently in the center of the table, then poured their tea from delicate porcelain teapots. One for Peach and Biscuit's chamomile, one for Sunny's lavender, and a small one just for Mittens's English breakfast. Enjoy, he said softly, and then he was gone. Peach lifted her teacup carefully, feeling its warmth seep into her paws. She brought it to her lips and took a slow sip. Chamomile, soft and floral, with just a hint of honey. She closed her eyes for a moment, savoring it. Biscuit reached for a scone, breaking it gently in half. Steam rose from the inside, and he spread a bit of clotted cream on one half, then a spoonful of strawberry jam. He took a bite, chewing slowly, his face softening with contentment. This is perfect, he said quietly. Sunny sipped her lavender tea, the floral scent rising gently. She reached for a lemon tart, taking a small bite. The tartness was balanced perfectly with sweetness. She smiled. Mittens chose a cucumber sandwich, taking a small, thoughtful bite. The coolness of the cucumber, the creaminess of the cheese, the softness of the bread. It was simple, but it was just right. They ate slowly, taking their time with each bite, each sip. There was no rush. No one was waiting for them. This moment was theirs. As they ate, Peach pulled out her small notebook and the list Louise had given them. She unfolded it carefully and read through the names again. 16 band members, she said softly. That means 16 sets of accessories, maybe 2 items each, an ear warmer and a scarf, or mittens and a wrap. Mittens nodded, setting down his teacup. That sounds reasonable. We can mix and match based on what each musician might need. Biscuit reached for another scone. I think the little ones, the mice and birds, they'll need the warmest things. Their tiny bodies lose heat quickly. Good point, said Sunny, sketching a small ear warmer design in her notebook. We could make extra thick ear warmers for them, maybe with ear flaps. Peach smiled. I like that idea. They continued to plan gently, jotting down notes, discussing colors and sizes, all while nibbling on pastries and sipping their tea. The piano music shifted to something even softer, a waltz, slow and dreamy. Outside, the afternoon light began to deepen, turning golden. The trees in Central Park glowed. After some time, the friends finished their tea. The tiered tray was nearly empty, just a few crumbs left behind. Their teacups were drained. Peach set down her napkin gently. That was lovely, she said. The others nodded in agreement. The dear waiter returned, clearing their table slowly, stacking the dishes with care. Did you enjoy everything? He asked. It was perfect, said Biscuit. Thank you. The waiter smiled. I'm so glad. Happy Thanksgiving. They paid quietly, leaving a generous tip, and then stood gathering their bags once more. As they left the tea room and walked back through the elegant lobby, Peach felt a warmth in her chest. Not from the tea, but from the peacefulness of the moment, from the company of her friends, from the simple joy of a quiet afternoon. They stepped back outside, into the cool air, and the city welcomed them back gently. The sun was lower, now casting long, soft shadows. Where to next? Sunny asked, bouncing slightly on her webbed feet. Mittens smiled, his bell chiming. I believe it's your turn to choose. Sunny's eyes sparkled. Ice skating, she said. Let's go to Rockefeller Center. And so they walked on, bags full of yarn, hearts full of warmth, moving slowly through the city toward their next gentle stop. Chapter 5. Ice Skating at Rockefeller Center. Rockefeller Center was aglow with soft lights by the time the friends arrived. The tall buildings rose up around them, their windows reflecting the golden light of late afternoon. In the center of the plaza, the ice rink glimmered like a smooth, polished mirror. The rink wasn't crowded yet, just a few skaters gliding peacefully across the ice, their movements slow and graceful. A crocheted fox in a burgundy coat, a pair of young rabbits holding hands, helping each other balance. A small owl skating backward, her wings tucked close. Above the rink, the famous Christmas tree stood tall, its branches not yet decorated, but still beautiful in their natural simplicity. Sunny's eyes lit up. It's perfect, she said softly. They approached the skate rental booth where a kind crocheted penguin greeted them. He wore a red vest and a small name tag that read Percy. Good afternoon, Percy said cheerfully, though his voice was gentle. Would you like to skate today? Yes, please, said Sunny, her pink and white bow bouncing. Wonderful. What sizes do you need? They gave their sizes, and Percy disappeared into the back, returning moments later with 4 pairs of ice skates, white with silver blades, laces neatly tied. The friends sat down on a nearby bench, setting their bags of yarn beside them carefully. One by one, they removed their regular shoes and slipped on the skates, lacing them up slowly, making sure each one fit snugly. Peach adjusted her teal beret, making sure it wouldn't slip off. Biscuit tucked his red and white checkered scarf inside his coat so it wouldn't drag on the ice. Mittens's silver bell chimed softly as he stood, testing his balance. Sunny was already on her feet, wobbling slightly but grinning. They made their way to the edge of the rink, gripping the rail gently. The ice was smooth and cool, glowing faintly in the soft light. Sunny stepped onto the ice first, her webbed feet sliding slightly before she found her balance. She pushed off gently, gliding forward, her arms out for balance. A look of pure joy spread across her face. Peach followed, stepping carefully onto the ice. She wobbled for just a moment, then steadied herself, pushing off slowly. Her movements were graceful, elegant, like a dancer. Biscuit was more cautious. He held on to the rail for a moment, then pushed off gently, gliding a short distance before stopping, his paws windmilling slightly. He laughed softly. It's been a while, he said. Mittens stepped onto the ice last, his movements careful and measured. He pushed off once, twice, finding his rhythm. His silver bell chimed with each glide. They skated together, moving in a slow, gentle circle around the rink. There was no racing, no showing off, just peaceful movement, the soft sound of blades cutting through ice. Shh, shh, shh. Sunny spun in a slow, lazy circle, her yellow feathers catching the light. Peach skated beside her, gliding smoothly, her pink yarn almost glowing in the golden hour light. Biscuit and Mittens skated side by side, moving slowly, taking their time, occasionally reaching out to steady each other when one of them wobbled. The other skaters moved around them in their own rhythms, no one bumping, no one rushing. It was like a gentle dance, everyone moving together in quiet harmony. Above them, the sky deepened from gold to soft blue. The first stars began to appear, tiny pinpricks of light. The lights around the rink turned on, casting a warm glow over the ice. Sunny glided over to the center of the rink and stopped, looking up at the tall buildings around them. "This is magic," she said softly. The others joined her, stopping in the middle of the rink, standing together. For a moment, they just stood there, breathing in the cool air, feeling the smoothness of the ice beneath their skates, listening to the distant hum of the city. Peaceful, calm, perfect. After a while, they skated a few more slow laps, then carefully made their way back to the edge of the rink. They stepped off the ice, their legs a little wobbly from the unfamiliar movement, and sat down on the bench. They unlaced their skates slowly, one at a time, and slipped their regular shoes back on. Sunny returned the skates to Percy, who took them with a kind smile. "Did you have a good skate?" he asked. "It was wonderful," Sunny said warmly. They gathered their bags once more and stepped away from the rink, back into the plaza. Biscuit's stomach rumbled softly. He patted it, looking sheepish. "I think it might be time for dinner," he said. Peach smiled. "Pizza?" Biscuit's face brightened. "Yes, please." And so they made their way across the city once more, this time heading toward Brooklyn, toward a small, famous pizzeria where the slices were warm and the cheese melted perfectly. Their gentle adventure continued. Chapter 6. A Pizza Crawl for Biscuit the Bear. The subway ride to Brooklyn was peaceful and slow, the train rocking gently as it carried them across the East River. The friends sat together in a row, bags of yarn at their feet, watching the lights of the city blur past the windows. Mittens was reading his book again, his silver bell resting quietly against his collar. Peach was knitting. She'd pulled out a small project, a simple square, and was working on it slowly, her needles clicking softly. Sunny was doodling in her sketchbook, drawing little ice skates and snowflakes. Biscuit was gazing out the window, his red and white checkered scarf draped loosely around his neck, thinking about pizza. When they arrived at their stop, they climbed the stairs and emerged into a quieter, residential neighborhood. The streets were lined with brownstones, their stoops decorated with potted plants and small pumpkins. The air smelled like autumn, wood smoke, roasted chestnuts, the faint sweetness of someone baking pie. Di Fara Pizza was just a few blocks away, a small, unassuming shop on a corner. The sign above the door was simple, hand-painted, the letters slightly worn. But the smell, oh, the smell, was incredible. Tomato sauce, fresh basil, baking dough, melted cheese. Biscuit inhaled deeply, his eyes closing. Perfect, he whispered. They stepped inside. The shop was small, warm, with just a few tables and a long counter. Behind the counter, the owner, a crocheted mouse with flour-dusted paws and a kind smile, was pulling a pizza from the oven with a long wooden paddle. The pizza was golden and bubbling, the cheese stretching as he slid it onto the counter. Welcome, welcome, the bay mouse said warmly. Take a seat. I'll be right with you. The friends found a small table near the window and sat down, setting their bags of yarn carefully on the floor. The table was covered with a red and white checkered tablecloth, and in the center sat a small vase with a single silk daisy. The mouse came over, wiping his paws on his apron. What can I get for you? What do you recommend? Peach asked gently. The mouse smiled. Everything is good, but the classic is always the classic. Margarita, tomato, mozzarella, basil, simple, but perfect. That sounds wonderful, said Biscuit. One large margarita, the mouse asked. Yes, please, said Mittens. The mouse nodded and returned to the counter where he began to prepare their pizza with slow, careful movements. He stretched the dough gently, spreading it into a wide circle. He ladled on the tomato sauce, swirling it in smooth circles. He sprinkled on handfuls of fresh mozzarella, tore fresh basil leaves and scattered them. Across the top, then drizzled a thin stream of olive oil. Finally, he slid the pizza into the oven. The friends waited peacefully, talking quietly about the yarn they'd collected, the patterns they might use, the colors they'd chosen. After a few minutes, the mouse pulled the pizza from the oven. The crust was golden and slightly charred in places. The cheese was melted and bubbling. The basil was bright green and fragrant. He brought it over to their table on a round wooden board, setting it down gently. Enjoy, he said. The friends looked at the pizza, steam rising from it in soft curls. Biscuit picked up a slice carefully, the cheese stretching in long, beautiful strings. He brought it to his mouth and took a bite. Warm, soft. The crust was chewy and slightly crispy on the edges. The tomato sauce was sweet and tangy. The mozzarella was creamy. The basil added a fresh herbal note that tied everything together. He chewed slowly, savoring every flavor. This, he said after it, swallowing, is perfect. The others each took a slice, eating slowly, quietly, appreciating the simple, delicious food. They ate in comfortable silence, the warmth of the pizza filling them, the warmth of the small shop wrapping around them like a blanket. After a while, when the pizza was gone and only crumbs remained, they sat back, full and content. Thank you, Peach said to the mouse as they prepared to leave. My pleasure, the mouse said warmly. Happy Thanksgiving. They stepped back out into the evening. The sky was darker now, a deep blue, and the street lights had come on, casting pools of warm light on the sidewalks. One more stop, Mittens suggested, his bell chiming. Katz's Deli? Biscuit patted his stomach. I think I have room, he said with a smile. And so they made their way back to Manhattan, toward the Lower East Side, toward the famous delicatessen where the sandwiches were legendary. The city moved around them, but they moved slowly, peacefully, taking their time. Chapter 7. Katz's Delicatessen with Mittens, the Cat. Katz's Delicatessen was everything Mittens had hoped it would be. The moment they stepped inside, they were greeted by warmth, noise, but not too much, and the incredible smell of cured meats, rye bread, and pickles. The space was large and bustling, but in a gentle way. Crocheted animals sat at long tables, eating sandwiches piled high, sipping sodas, chatting quietly. The walls were covered with old photographs and signed posters, decades of history captured in fading images. Behind the counter, a crocheted badger in a white apron and paper hat was slicing pastrami with a long, sharp knife, the blade moving rhythmically. Slice, slice, slice. The friends got in line, moving slowly toward the counter. When it was their turn, the badger looked up and smiled. "What can I get you?" he asked. Mittens stepped forward, his silver bell chiming. "Pastrami on rye, please," he said. "With mustard." "Good choice," the badger said. He said, grabbed a handful of freshly sliced pastrami, warm and steaming, and piled it onto a slice of rye bread. He added a generous smear of spicy brown mustard, then topped it with another slice of bread. He wrapped it in white paper and handed it to Mittens. "Enjoy." The others ordered smaller sandwiches, turkey for Peach, corned beef for Biscuit, a simple cheese for Sunny, and they found a table near the back, away from the busiest part of the deli. They sat down, unwrapping their sandwiches slowly. Mittens took a bite of his pastrami sandwich. The meat was tender, smoky, slightly peppery. The mustard added a sharp tang. The rye bread was soft but sturdy, holding everything together. It was messy. Juice dripped onto the paper, but it was perfect. He chewed slowly, his eyes half closed, savoring every bite. Peach took a bite of her turkey sandwich, the meat thinly sliced, the bread fresh. She smiled. "This is delicious." Biscuit nodded, his mouth full of corned beef. He swallowed and took a sip of his soda, a cream soda, sweet and fizzy. Sunny nibbled on her cheese sandwich, looking around at the bustling deli, taking in the sights and sounds. It was lively, but not overwhelming. It felt alive, in a good way. They ate slowly, taking their time, enjoying the food, the atmosphere, the quiet company of each other. When they finished, they wrapped up the remaining bits of their sandwiches. Biscuit packed his leftovers in his Tupperware and stood, gathering their bags of yarn. Outside, the evening had fully settled in. The streets were lit by streetlights and the glow of shop windows. The air was cool, but not cold. "One more thing before we go home?" Sunny asked, adjusting her pink and white bow. "What's that?" Peach asked. "A Broadway show," Sunny said. "There's a little theater not far from here. They do quiet, gentle shows. Nothing loud or overwhelming, just peaceful stories." Mittens smiled. "That sounds perfect." And so they made their way to the theater, their bags full of yarn, their hearts full of warmth, ready for one more gentle experience before returning home to crochet through the night. Chapter 8. A Calm Broadway Evening. The theater was small and tucked away on a quiet side street, its marquee glowing softly in the evening light. The sign read, "The Whimsy Theater Presents." A tale of falling leaves. The friends stepped inside into a cozy lobby with soft carpet and walls painted a warm cream color. A crocheted otter sat at the ticket booth, smiling kindly. "Welcome," she said. "4 tickets?" "Yes, please," said Peach. The otter handed them 4 tickets. Small, printed on thick paper with a delicate leaf design in the corner. The show starts in 10 minutes. Enjoy. They found their seats in the small theater, just 10 rows of plush chairs, arranged in a gentle curve facing the stage. The stage was simple, with a painted backdrop of a forest in autumn, golden and orange and red. The lights dimmed slowly, and a hush fell over the small audience. Then, from the wings, a single crocheted deer stepped onto the stage. She wore a simple dress the color of autumn leaves, and she carried a small basket. She began to speak, her voice soft and melodic. Once, in a forest far away, where the trees grew tall and the seasons turned gently, there lived a small deer who loved to watch the leaves fall. The story unfolded slowly, peacefully. There was no conflict, no danger, just the deer walking through the forest, collecting leaves, watching the seasons change, learning to appreciate the beauty of each moment. The lights on stage shifted gently, warm yellows, soft oranges, deep reds. Soft music played in the background, a lone violin, a quiet flute, a gentle piano. Other characters appeared, a wise old owl, a playful squirrel, a kind fox, all crocheted, all moving slowly, gracefully. The friends watched in quiet wonder. Peach's paw rested on her chest, feeling the gentle rise and fall of her breathing. Biscuit's eyes grew heavy, soothed by the soft music. Mittens's bell was silent, resting against his collar. Sunny leaned her head gently against Peach's shoulder. The story continued, a gentle meditation on change, on gratitude, on the beauty of letting go. And then, quietly, it ended. The deer stood center stage, holding a single golden leaf, and she smiled. The lights dimmed. The audience applauded softly, not loud, not overwhelming, just a gentle appreciation. The friends joined in, clapping quietly, their paws making soft patting sounds. The lights came back up slowly, and the small audience began to file out, moving peacefully, whispering to each other about the beauty of the show. The friends stood, gathering their bags once more, and made their way out into the lobby. Outside, the night was cool and calm. The city was quieter now, winding down, preparing for rest. "That was beautiful," Peach said softly. "It was," Sunny agreed, her voice gentle. Mittens nodded, his bell chiming. "It reminded me why I love the fall." Biscuit yawned, covering his mouth with his paw. "I think I'm ready to go home and crochet," he said. They made their way to the subway once more, riding the quiet train back to their neighborhood, back to their cozy space above the quiet street. When they arrived, they climbed the 3 flights of stairs slowly, unlocked the pale blue door, and stepped inside. The room was just as they'd left it, warm, cozy, filled with baskets of yarn. They set down their bags carefully, pulling out the new skeins they'd collected. Soft blues, warm oranges, deep reds, cheerful yellows, gentle purples. So many colors, so many possibilities. Peach turned on a small lamp, casting a warm glow over the room. Mittens put the kettle on for tea. Biscuit settled into his favorite cushioned ottoman, pulling out his crochet hook. Sunny spread out her sketches, looking at the designs they'd planned, and together they began to crochet. Chapter 9, Crocheting 4. The marching band. The night stretched out before them, quiet and calm. Outside, the city continued its gentle hum, but inside the Crochet Club space, everything was peaceful. Peach sat in her armchair by the window, her teal beret still perched perfectly on her head. She had chosen a soft sky blue yarn, the merino she'd found at Woolly and Warm, and she was working on an ear warmer for Lila the lamb, the trumpet player. Loop, pull through, loop again. Her paws moved slowly, rhythmically, creating row after row of soft, warm fabric. The stitch she'd chosen was a simple half-double crochet, dense enough to block the wind but soft enough to be comfortable. She worked quietly, occasionally glancing out the window at the darkened street below, where a few late-night walkers passed by, bundled in their own scarves and coats. Across from her, Biscuit was working on a pair of mittens. He'd chosen the burnt orange yarn, warm and cozy, perfect for a cool November morning. The mittens were for Rocco the raccoon, the drummer, whose paws would need to stay warm and flexible to grip his drumsticks. Biscuit crocheted slowly, his tongue poking out slightly in concentration. He was working in the round, creating the body of the mitten first, then carefully adding a thumb opening. His red and white checkered scarf draped over his shoulders, and every so often he'd pause to take a sip of chamomile tea from the cup beside him. Mittens sat on the floor, his back against the bookshelf, his cream-colored collar and silver bell catching the lamplight. He was working on a long, elegant scarf for one of the bluebird flute players, Pippa, according to the list. The yarn he'd chosen was a soft gray bamboo, light and airy, perfect for a small bird who needed warmth without too much bulk. He worked with careful precision, his stitches even and neat. The scarf grew longer with each row, draping over his lap like a gentle stream. His bell chimed softly whenever he shifted, a gentle reminder of his presence. Sunny sat cross-legged on the knitted rug, surrounded by balls of colorful yarn. She was working on several small projects at once. Cheerful ear warmers in bright pink, sunny yellow, and teal. These were for the smaller band members, the mice who played piccolos, the sparrows who played xylophones. She crocheted quickly but not frantically, her movements fluid and joyful. Every so often, she'd hold up a finished ear warmer, examining it with a satisfied smile, then set it aside and start on the next one. The room was filled with the soft sounds of their work, the gentle slide of yarn through fingers, the quiet click of crochet hooks, the occasional sip of tea, the soft rustling of paper as someone checked the list of band members. No one spoke much. There was no need. They were together, working toward a shared goal, and that was enough. Hours passed, but time felt slow and gentle, like honey dripping from a spoon. Peach finished the ear warmer for Lila the lamb. Ishael held it up, examining it in the lamplight. It was perfect. Soft, warm, with a slight stretch that would fit comfortably. She folded it carefully and set it in a growing pile of finished accessories. One down, she said softly. Biscuit finished the first mitten for Rocco the raccoon. He tried it on his own paw, too big for him, but just right for a raccoon. He smiled and set it aside, already starting on the second mitten. Mittens' scarf for Pippa the bluebird grew longer and longer, a river of soft gray yarn. He worked steadily, peacefully, his silver bell chiming occasionally. Sunny finished 3 ear warmers, one pink, one yellow, one teal, and lined them up on the floor in front of her, admiring the cheerful colors. Then she reached for another ball of yarn, this one a soft lavender, and began again. The kettle whistled softly, and Mittens stood, moving to the corner to prepare more tea. He filled 4 cups, chamomile for Peach and Biscuit, lavender for Sunny, and English breakfast for himself, and brought them over carefully, setting each one down beside its owner. "Thank you," Peach murmured, not looking up from her work. They continued. The pile of finished accessories grew slowly but steadily. Ear warmers in every color, soft blues, warm oranges, cheerful yellows, gentle purples, classic creams, mittens for different sized paws, tiny ones for mice, medium ones for raccoons, larger ones for otters, scarves in various lengths, long and elegant for tall musicians, short and cozy for small ones, wraps that could be draped over shoulders or wrapped around necks, providing extra warmth without restricting movement. Each piece was made with care, with thought, with love. Peach picked up the list again, checking off names as they completed each item. Lila, the lamb, ear warmer, complete Rocco, the raccoon, mittens, in progress, Pippa, the bluebird, scarf, almost done. 16 names, 16 musicians, 16 lives that would be a little warmer, a little more comfortable because of their work. The night deepened. The city outside grew quieter. Fewer cars passed, fewer lights shone in the windows across the street. But inside the Crochet Club's space, the work continued. Slow, steady, peaceful. Biscuit yawned, covering his mouth with his paw. "Should we take a break?" he asked softly. "Maybe," said Peach, setting down her hook. "Let's see how many we've finished." They gathered around the pile of completed accessories, counting carefully. 10 ear warmers, 6 pairs of mittens, 4 scarves, 3 wraps. "That's 23 items," Sunny said, impressed. "For 16 musicians, that's more than 1 item per musician." "Some of them might want extras," Mittens pointed out, his bell chiming, "in case they lose one, or if the weather is especially cold." Peach nodded. "Good thinking. Let's finish a few more, just to be safe." They returned to their spots, picking up their hooks once more. But the breaks between stitches grew longer. Their movements became slower. Their eyes grew heavier. Finally, Biscuit set down his work and yawned again. "I think I need to sleep," he said. The others nodded in agreement. "We can finish the rest in the morning," Peach said gently. "We still have tomorrow before the parade." They tidied up slowly, winding loose yarn back into balls, tucking crochet hooks into a small basket, stacking the finished accessories neatly on a table. Mittens turned off the kettle. Sunny folded her sketches. Peach turned off the lamp, leaving just one small nightlight glowing softly in the corner. One by one, they moved to the small sleeping area at the back of the room. A cozy space with 4 small beds, each covered in soft quilts and fluffy pillows. Peach removed her teal beret, setting it carefully on a small table beside her bed. Biscuit unwrapped his red and white checkered scarf, draping it over the back of a chair. Mittens adjusted his cream-colored collar, making sure the silver bell wouldn't chime while he slept. Sunny removed her pink and white polka dot bow, placing it gently on her pillow. They climbed into their beds, pulling the quilts up to their chins. The room was dark and quiet, filled with the gentle presence of friendship and purpose. "Good night," Peach whispered. "Good night," the others replied, their voices soft and sleepy, and one by one, they drifted off to sleep, dreaming of yarn and music and parades, of warmth and kindness and gratitude. Chapter 10, Thanksgiving Day. Parade morning. The morning arrived gently, as all mornings should. The sun rose slowly, casting soft golden light through the window of the Crochet Club's space. The light crept across the floor, inch by inch, until it reached the sleeping faces of the four friends. Peach stirred first, blinking slowly, her eyes adjusting to the light. She lay still for a moment, feeling the warmth of her quilt, the softness of her pillow. Then she remembered. Today was the parade. She sat up, carefully so as not to disturb the others, and looked over at the table where the finished accessories were stacked. So many colors, so much care. She smiled softly. One by one, the others woke. Biscuit with a big yawn and a stretch, Mittens with a quiet sigh, Sunny with a cheerful little chirp. They rose slowly, making their beds, smoothing the quilts, fluffing the pillows. Peach put on her teal beret, adjusting it just so. Biscuit wrapped his red and white checkered scarf around his neck. Mittens adjusted his cream-colored collar, the silver bell chiming softly. Sunny tied her pink and white polka dot bow carefully. They gathered at the table, looking at the pile of finished accessories. "Do we have everything?" Sunny asked. Peach checked the list one more time, counting carefully. 12 ear warmers, 8 pairs of mittens, 6 scarves, 5 wraps. 31 items, she said softly, for 16 musicians, almost 2 items each. "That should be plenty," Mittens said, his bell chiming. They found a large wicker basket, the same one they used for carrying yarn, and carefully placed each accessory inside, folding and stacking them gently. The basket filled with color, blues and oranges and yellows and purples and creams, all soft and warm and inviting. Biscuit made a quick breakfast, toast with jam, mugs of hot chocolate, a few slices of apple. They ate quietly, peacefully, sitting at the table, watching the morning light grow brighter. When they finished, they put on their coats. Peach's was a soft lavender, Biscuit's was caramel brown, Mittens's was charcoal gray, and Sunny's was pale yellow. They picked up the basket together, each holding one side, and made their way to the door. The morning air was cool and crisp when they stepped outside, but not uncomfortably so. The sky was clear, a pale blue with just a few wisps of white clouds. Perfect parade weather. They walked through the quiet streets, the basket swaying gently between them. The city say, waking up slowly. A few early risers sipping coffee on stoops, a jogger passing by, a delivery truck making its rounds. They made their way to Central Park West, where the parade would begin. Already a few spectators were gathering, crocheted animals bundled in coats and scarves, holding cups of hot cider, chatting quietly. The friends found Luis easily. He was standing near a group of musicians, all crocheted animals of different shapes and sizes, all holding instruments, all looking a bit nervous. When Luis saw the friends approaching, his face lit up. "You came," he said warmly, hurrying over. "Of course we did," Peach said, smiling, "and we brought something for your band." She set the basket down and opened it, revealing the colorful pile of accessories inside. Luis's eyes widened. "You made all of these?" he asked, his voice full of wonder. "We did," said Biscuit proudly, his red and white scarf swaying. Luis called his band over. "Everyone, come see what the Crochet Club made for us." The 16 musicians gathered around, their eyes lighting up as they saw the pile of warm, soft accessories. Lila the lamb, the trumpet player, picked up the sky blue ear warmer Peach had made. She tried it on, adjusting it over her woolly ears. "It's perfect," she said softly. "So warm." Rocco the raccoon found his burnt orange mittens and slipped them on, flexing his paws. "These are amazing," he said. "I can still hold my drumsticks, but my paws are so cozy." Pippa the bluebird wrapped the soft gray scarf around her tiny neck, fluffing her feathers contentedly. One by one, the musicians chose their accessories, trying them on, exclaiming softly over the colors and the softness. A small mouse named Ember, who played the piccolo, found a cheerful pink ear warmer and put it on, grinning. "I feel so fancy," she squeaked. An otter named Otis, who played the tuba, wrapped a long cream-colored scarf around his neck twice and sighed with relief. "This is exactly what I needed." Luis watched his band, his eyes shining with gratitude. He turned to the friends. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea how much this means to us. We'll play our best today, I promise." Peach smiled. "We know you will." The friends helped distribute the remaining accessories, making sure everyone had what they needed, adjusting scarves and ear warmers and mittens until everything fit perfectly. Then, from somewhere in the distance, they heard it, the first notes of music. The parade was beginning. Luis clapped his paws together softly. "All right, everyone, it's time. Let's warm up." The band formed a circle, lifting their instruments. Lila raised her trumpet. Rocco positioned his drumsticks. The bluebirds lifted their flutes. The mice held their piccolos carefully. Otis hefted his tuba, and they began to play a warm-up scale, soft and gentle. The sound was beautiful. Warm brass, clear woodwinds, steady percussion. Not loud, not harsh, but full and rich and inviting. The friends stood back, watching with pride. Luis conducted gently, his paws moving in slow, graceful arcs. His navy blue conductor's cap caught the morning light. After the warm-up, the band moved into formation. They lined up in neat rows, instruments ready, colorful accessories bright against the soft morning light. And then, slowly, the parade began. The friends followed at a distance, joining the spectators who lined the street, watching as the band began to march. Step, 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 slow and steady in perfect time. The band played a gentle tune, something festive but not overwhelming, a melody that spoke of gratitude and warmth and togetherness. The crocheted animals watching from the sidewalks clapped softly, their faces bright with joy. The four friends stood together, watching their band march past. They saw Lila the lamb, her sky blue ear warmer, keeping her woolly ears warm as she played her trumpet with confidence. They saw Rocco the raccoon, his burnt orange mittens, allowing his paws to grip his drumsticks perfectly as he kept the beat. They saw Pippa the bluebird, her soft gray scarf fluttering slightly as she played her flute, the notes clear and sweet. They saw all 16 musicians, warm and comfortable and joyful, making beautiful music together. Peach felt a warmth in her chest, not from the morning sun, but from something deeper, from the joy of giving, from the satisfaction of helping, from the simple beauty of a job well done. Beside her, Biscuit wiped a happy tear from his eye, his red and white scarf fluttering in the breeze. Mittens's silver bell chimed softly, as if in celebration. Sunny bounced on her webbed feet, her pink and white bow bouncing along with her. They watched until the band turned a corner, the music fading slowly, gently like a lullaby drifting into silence. Then they stood there for a moment longer, just the four of them, surrounded by the soft sounds of the parade, the gentle murmur of the crowd, the distant laughter of children. Grateful, content, warm. Happy Thanksgiving, Peach said softly. Happy Thanksgiving, the others replied, and together they walked slowly back through the city, past the parade, past the spectators, back to their cozy space above the quiet street. When they arrived, they climbed the 3 flights of stairs one last time, unlocked the pale blue door, and stepped inside. The room was warm and welcoming, filled with the soft scent of chamomile and wool. They took off their coats, hung them carefully on hooks by the door. Peach set her teal beret on the table. Biscuit unwrapped his red and white checkered scarf. Mittens adjusted his cream-colored collar, the silver bell chiming one last time. Sunny removed her pink and white polka dot bow. They settled into their favorite spots, Peach in her armchair by the window, Biscuit on his cushioned ottoman, Mittens on the floor by the bookshelf, Sunny on the knitted rug. They didn't pick up their crochet hooks. They didn't start a new project. They simply sat together in comfortable silence, feeling the warmth of their friendship, the satisfaction of their work, the peace of a day well spent. Outside, the parade continued, the music played, the city celebrated. But inside the Crochet Club's space, everything was calm, everything was soft, everything was exactly as it should be. And as the afternoon light filtered through the window, golden and warm, the four friends closed their eyes, letting the peacefulness wash over them. No words were needed, no plans were made, just rest, just gratitude, just warmth. And slowly, gently, like leaves drifting to the ground on a quiet autumn day, they drifted into sleep, their hearts full, their work complete, their friendship a soft blanket wrapping around them. Safe, cozy, home, the end. Sleep well, dear listener. You are warm, you are safe, you are loved. Rest now. Tomorrow can wait. For now, just rest.